I'm Mike Uyak. I love to try new things, and I've had culinary adventures all around the world, as well as right at home. I've had really wonderful food, as well as some really horrible food. I'd like to share some of my adventures with you, and we'll see if I have what it takes to fix whatever goes wrong. This is Recipe Redemption.
Greetings and salutations, Redeemers, and welcome to another episode of Recipe Redemption. Today I want to discuss something that is considered by many to be an American classic, the grilled cheese sandwich. Now, everyone thinks they know what a grilled cheese sandwich is, and they're right. Every single one of them. Whatever it is, a grilled cheese sandwich is a comfort food. It's something that you got as a kid. And there, to a certain extent, is no right way of doing it. If you are used to Wonder Bread and Velveeta slices or Kraft singles, thrown in a pan with some butter or even spray oil, and just sort of griddled until they're nice and crisp and melty, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't necessarily have to be fancy. On the other hand, if you do choose to get slightly better quality ingredients, you do have a different experience. I won't say better, I won't say worse. It depends on your tastes. Maybe you like the Wonder Bread and Velveeta. That's fine. My personal conception of the grilled cheese sandwich, it's pretty close to the way that Alton Brown did it on his show Good Eats, where you have a good crusty bread, something that kind of holds up. You don't want something that's going to sort of tear in the process of making the sandwich. You want it to hold up and actually crisp up really well in the grilling process. So I usually go with something like a good crusty sourdough or French style bread. Something with a good sort of chew to the crust. A definite moistness, but still solidity to the crumb. Something that's going to hold up to a little bit of abuse. You're going to be flipping it around a bit and cooking it. So it needs to be able to hold up to it. So you don't want something that's really crummy and dry. As for the cheese, I'm a sharp cheddar guy. You can choose others. If you've seen the movie Chef, starring and I believe directed and produced and everything else by Jon Favreau, he makes a grilled cheese sandwich for his son in the movie. And he actually has, I think, 4 different types of sliced cheese and quite a lot of cheese. Perfectly fine if you like the sort of 4 cheese idea, go for it. I'm a sharp cheddar kind of guy. Good stone ground mustard or something, sort of a pub mustard, and a grind of black pepper in the middle. And then I do like to butter the outside of the bread before I throw it in the pan. Fairly simple. Medium to medium high heat. You don't want it to cook too fast. You want the heat to be able to penetrate into the center of the sandwich and actually melt the cheese. If you have it too high, the bread's going to toast and potentially burn before the cheese actually has a chance to melt. So, medium temperatures. Generally speaking, what you want, at least as far as I'm concerned, the formula that you should have, regardless of the type of bread and the type of cheese, as I said, a fairly robust bread, something that will hold up to a bit of handling. A good the cheese has to be a melting cheese. So something like Mizithra or Indian Paneer, if you happen to have that around. Parmesan to a certain extent. Some of these, some of these harder, not really good melting cheeses are not a good choice because you want it to actually melt. You want it to be cheesy. You want some sort of a spread that's going to complement the flavor of the cheese, sort of marry the flavor of the cheese and the bread together, and maybe add another note to it. Now, I used the pub mustard as an example, but doesn't necessarily have to be. And that's kind of what I want to explore today. If you have a robust bread, a flavorful cheese of some sort that will melt well, and some sort of spread that you think will complement the cheese and the bread, you have a grilled cheese sandwich. I've got 3 different ideas for if you don't happen to have, you know, a French loaf around or a sourdough, but you do have something else, maybe that'll work. If you don't have cheddar, but you have a different kind of cheese, as long as you know it's going to melt, maybe that'll work well. And if you don't happen to have mustard, but you have some other spread and you think, you know, that might actually taste really good with the cheese, you might have the makings for a grilled cheese sandwich that's very, very different from the one that you grew up with. Let's try it out.
So for today's experiment, we're using 3 different breads. The first is a crusty French-style sourdough. The second is a ciabatta. I kind of mashed it, slicing it. And the third is a cranberry walnut bread. Now on the French sourdough, I'm going to start with an herbed goat cheese. I think this is going to taste really good, and I'm going to use a good bit of it. Now, this bread happens to have a big air bubble in it, and so I have this hole in the middle. I'm going to have to sort of spread the cheese around. So that's something I'm going to need to look out for. As the cheese melts, I want to try and avoid too much of it actually oozing out through the hole. It might actually, you know, once the cheese actually contacts the pan, it might possibly burn. But I'm going to add a little bit of prosciutto to this, just to kind of give it a little extra something. Since I'm not putting any other sort of spread, I think this will add a good bit of flavor to it. Now on the ciabatta, I have got some apple butter, which I think will taste quite nice, with some slices of aged Gouda. I think that will taste quite nice. And the cranberry walnut bread is getting some additional preserves. I've got some red currant jelly here, a squeeze or 2 of stone ground mustard, sort of a pub style mustard, and finally some chunks of a double cream blue cheese. Now it's not a grilled cheese sandwich unless you know, grill it. I don't have a griddle to cook these on, so I'm doing this in the frying pan. And one thing you want to remember is to toast your grilled cheese sandwiches on sort of a medium-low heat. You want to make sure that the heat actually penetrates and melts the cheese before you burn the bread. And obviously flip so you get both sides nice and toasty. And because you kind of have to, even though these sandwiches are on the smaller side, you still want to cut them in half because everyone wants to see that cross section. There it is. And repeat for the other 2. And for the blue cheese on walnut bread, I decided these were small enough I wasn't going to have to cut them in half. And as a matter of fact, I made 2.
Okay, let's talk about those sandwiches. The blue cheese was delicious, all by itself. That's sort of the problem. It was quite strong, and so although the flavor profile did actually pair well with the walnut bread and the jelly that I used. It overpowered them. So, yeah, it wasn't the best. It was delicious, but it was, blue cheese on bread. So that could have been better. It's still delicious, but not the best. Same thing with the goat cheese. The goatiness. Goat cheese tends to be fairly aggressive, not as aggressive as the blue cheese, but still pretty aggressive. The flavor of the herbs was quite strong, and so it sort of overpowered the apple butter that I paired it with. And you didn't really taste the bread. So the clear winner today was the aged Gouda, prosciutto, and duck fat. Cooked this in grilled in duck fat. Let's be honest, everything is better with duck fat. But that was definitely a clear winner. None of the flavors was so aggressive that it overpowered the others. Melted well, and had a really good flavor and texture. So we learned a little bit today. You can't have anything that's a little too aggressive or a little too overpowering, or else you won't taste any of the other flavors. It worked. The other two worked perfectly fine as grilled cheese sandwiches. Just a little bit too strong. Probably needed to be tweaked a little bit. Maybe just a little bit less of the cheese and a little bit more of the condiment. Possibly a more flavorful bread, but it's bread. It's not. The bread is not supposed to really be the star of the show. It's still a supporting character. So I think just a little bit less of the cheese itself, just a little schmear to give you the flavor, because it's such an aggressive flavor. You didn't need a whole lot. But the words need and cheese don't necessarily always go together. Do you need that much cheese? No. Do you want that much cheese? Yes. Of course you do. So that's the episode for today. Let me know what you think. If you have any unusual or uncommon, we'll put it that way, combinations for your grilled cheese sandwiches, let me know in the comments below. I might try them out. So until next time, I'm Mike Uyak, and I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time here on Recipe Redemption.